right, welcome to Between Two Rods, episode 4. I'm your host, Aaron Rich, and I'm glad to have two guests with me today. We've got Chad Bailey and Jeff Frazier joining me today. So, guys, I appreciate you being here. Today's a new episode for me because I'm not drinking whiskey today since it's I got a meeting right after this. But we're gonna have the same effect, man. We're gonna sit around, talk fishing, have a good time. I'd like to take a quick moment and thank our sponsor, BassTackleSupply.com. Got all kinds of freshwater fishing tackle for you. We do get a promo code that y'all can share. It's 2RODS, TWORODS, for 10% off. So feel free to visit our sponsor and thank them for putting on a show like this. So, guys, thanks again for being here today. Chad, had Jeff on us with us last time, and he was telling us all about you. And you're a county commissioner over there at Calhoun County, and you do lots of stuff. You got SizeMatters Fishing. So, man, tell us a little bit about what you do, man.
I am so I wear many different hats, and at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like I may have too many irons in the fire, but man, I've been treated real well my whole life, from the community level, from social media, from the catfish community. Everything that the Lord's ever put in front of me has just, I'm so blessed that it's turned out well and had a lot of support. But yeah, I'm actually a newly elected county official for Calhoun County. So we're learning the way through that. Full time, I do commercial construction. So Monday through Friday, I build buildings. I built a handful of them down here in Panama City.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
But I do that. And once upon a time, I even had a catfish guide service. So I was a guide for a few years. And even before that, I worked 10 years with the Florida Department of Corrections.
Nice.
So I've worn many hats in a short period of my life.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But ultimately now, like I said, I do construction, and I got the the county commissioner gig, which is pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, this social media thing is really neat to be able to share these experiences, being on the water, and really to give back to the youth. That's a big thing that we do, with these events. So.
Yeah, and I watched some of your stuff too, and it looks like you got your kids out there doing stuff, and I think your son was driving the boat in one of them I watched, and that's a lot of fun, man. I think we shared this on a previous podcast. I think to me, fishing is awesome when I get to go do it. But to me, when I'm sharing it with my kids and being able to do that, that's the most special time that we get with it. So I'm glad to hear you say that, man. I enjoyed watching your videos and having the kids in there. So
yeah, that's really the coolest thing. So I mean, and that's kind of how it started for me. Was me and the kids would go out fishing, and you have your good days and your bad days as far as catching fish goes. But they were all just magical days for us, because we got to spend that time together. But then when you had those good days, it was constantly people, man, where'd you catch some fish at? How'd you do that? How y'all caught a big fish? How did you do that? So it was like I got to where I was almost overwhelmed in every day having to send all these messages and phone calls to tell people, wow, man, we went down here and we fished by this stump, or we did this, the river was rising, this and that. And then my son was really just a couple years old, and he was like, let's just film.
Yeah.
Just record it, Dad. And we started recording, and I mean, the rest is history, and it's going well. I mean, and
that's great stuff for the kids to see too as they get older too, because it's these shared memories that y'all are having, and then when they get older, they're going to have that to go back to and remember, man. And it's different than just a memory. Like they'll be able to go back and watch those things, and so I think it's really cool that you're able to share that with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is. It's the coolest thing, and of course, and I have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. And to my 9-year-old, which is my son, you would think he's a movie star.
Yeah.
I mean, he tells all of his buddies, hey, we got Apparel, we got ApexPredatorOutfitters.com. You can get our merch.
He's got all the elementary kids wearing SizeMatters fishing shirts.
Absolutely, and all of his kids on his baseball team, every time I've coached him for years. So every time I show up to a new practice or something, they all come up and they're like, hey, we seen your video, where can I get some merch? It's but it's so cool to me. It's always humbling to me, but for him, it's just this unreal thing. It's so cool to see.
My oldest daughter, her friends are always impressed that my TikTok following is bigger than any of theirs. So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's a good thing as a dad, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, very cool. Well, I'd like to talk to you about the Florida River Fest in just a second, ask some questions about that and the tournament that you're putting on. But I do want to say hey to Jeff. Glad you have you join us again today, Jeff.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I think we had a good time last time, and you certainly struck a nerve with the catfish community on TikTok.
Unintentionally, but yes.
It's part of it, man. Everybody's got opinions. That's the thing about fishing is you have your way of doing it, and somebody else definitely has their way of doing it, and you're not always going to agree. Even though some things may lend themselves to catching more fish and bigger fish, but whatever, they're going to argue their point regardless. So.
Exactly.
Yep, for sure. Well, glad to have you on, man.
I appreciate it. I'd like to say just one thing to echo what Chad said and a little bit of what you said. To anyone out there who is questioning starting a YouTube channel, the main reason I started a YouTube channel is because my mom and dad have both passed away, and pictures, videos, like that stuff is gone. If you were to just do that and set everything as private, that'll last forever.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I would definitely encourage anybody to do that. So
it's a great thing, man. You think about all these things as fathers, man, and all these things that we want to say to our kids, and through the day, man, I have things that go through my mind that I want to say to them, and then if I don't get it written down or recorded or something, that thought is gone, man.
Yeah.
And so years ago, I started writing my kids' emails, and I created email accounts for them and started sending them letters, basically, because there's going to be a point where I'm going to have all these things that we went through when I was raising them that I can't remember
Exactly.
like vividly like I did then. And so I started doing that. So this kind of stuff where we're sharing these stories and, talking about lessons learned and, hardships that we go through, man, that's the stuff that fathers are doing for kids, man. So
Exactly.
I love talking about it and doing these things. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that shows you, how the times have changed too, and my aunt passed away probably, it was in 2018, and I often I won't delete the text messages. And when I was a kid, there wasn't a text message.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But you hear people like keeping a voicemail for so long.
Right.
I have voicemails from her, and I have text messages from her.
Yeah.
That I can look at. It's heartwarming. So it is cool. Same thing to know that with my kids, that those conversations that we have and those exchanges we have on video, are always going to be there.
Yeah, it matters.
That's pretty cool.
I did the same thing. I got a voicemail on my phone from my grandma before she passed, man.
Yeah.
So I'll probably never delete that thing.
Yeah,
I hope it
absolutely.
stays there forever. So
Yeah, it's cool.
yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, very cool. Well, man, I appreciate what you're doing for the community over there in Calhoun County, man. Will you tell me a little bit about Florida River Fest, and then tell me a little bit about more about your tournament that you're doing too? Because Jeff and I were talking about it last time, and we said, man, we got to get Chad on to talk about it.
Yeah. So to sum up the Florida River Fest, so it's ran by the Calhoun County Community Foundation, and that's a group of people from Calhoun County that foundation actually got started after Hurricane Michael. Obviously, you guys are very familiar with Hurricane Michael, and it was absolutely devastating to Calhoun County. We thrive off of the timber industry and whatnot, and it tore down every tree we had. It ruined and changed. Really, it changed life the way we know it. So afterwards, the Calhoun County Community Foundation started. And the goal was just to kind of raise money to help the community, help the people in need, and to have it to be able to give back through events or to, go paint a bathroom at the local park or something, just to give back to the community. And in looking for fundraisers and things to do, the Florida River Fest was born. So they've took this thing in the first year, and I obviously I wouldn't say quote me on these numbers, but these are going to be rough numbers. But the first year they decided they were going to do it at the Calhoun County Airport. It was kind of a dream, see how it went. And there was a couple hundred people out there, I would imagine, and a handful of vendors. It was like a cool little event. And the next year they moved and they said, well, we're going to upgrade. We're going to go to the Bluntstown High School football field. And that was the first year there that I think everybody really seen like the potential of what this event is, because we have Goat Day, which is a pioneer style. This is a little bit more modern, with updated stuff at it. But that first year, there was 500 or 600 people there, and then the next year, we kind of joined in with the catfish tournament, and it was over 1,000 people. And then last year, it was 2,000 or 3,000 people, and
Awesome.
so this thing has this growing every year, and this is either year 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But it's the second year doing it at the Bluntstown River Landing, which is
Neil Landing's
Neil
area.
Landing.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful venue down there that's never really been taken advantage of. We've never had events down there, just the way it used to be laid out. There's never been events. And Miss Jamie, which is the founder of the community foundation, she kind of had this vision of, doing it down there with the river in the background and, these big stages up and multiple stages and singers here. And it's the moment this one shuts off, you go to this stage and it's just back to back to keep the action going.
Yeah, cool.
And last year, a few hundred vendors and thousands of people. And this year, I think, I know there's over 100 vendors again. So it's Saturday, February the 22nd. February 22nd. I think it starts at 10 o'clock a.m. and goes through 6 o'clock. There's
all kinds of
there's probably
concerts going on.
15 or 20 different singers on multiple stages. So it's literally whatever kind of music it is you want, you can find it there. There's a pile of vendors. There's a lot of stuff for the kids to do. Inflatables.
So eating mud pies and stuff like that.
Mud pie competition is such a big thing for them. It's the cutest thing ever, to watch those kids do it.
They look awesome. Yeah.
They provide towels. It's really chocolate pudding, so y'all don't call DCF on us. But we're not making them eat mud.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just such a cool community event. It's a really safe area. You feel comfortable with your kids being out there and being able to run around. Things are very reasonably priced. There's 10 or 15 food vendors there with food trucks. Most of them are just local food trucks that come out. Yeah. And there's horse rides and this and that, and some great. really good music. And there's a big catfish tournament right in the middle of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it sounds like a great community event and definitely something kid friendly and something that families should check out. I do want to talk to you about the catfish tournament because Jeff was piquing my interest last time on it, and it seems like a great tournament and for a great cause, and but Jeff, you're doing it next time, aren't you? This coming one?
I haven't fished in any because I set up with Chad. You know what I'm saying? Him, and then he's got a friend, Jim, who kind of try to tackle anything that comes up. Well, because his boat will be out there on display. So SizeMatters Fishing will have a display. There'll be, how many gallons is that tank?
So we have a 700 gallon.
So there'll be a 700 gallon
aquarium.
tank out there, aquarium, that's going to have... At the beginning of the day, it'll have some brim. It'll have some catfish. We're going to catch some to make sure it does. But all the fish caught in the tournament will get put into there, and the kids love that. I mean, there'll be some 35, 40 pounders in there. Nice. You know what I'm saying? So we're kind of set up. So I haven't fished it. That's just because everybody listening, I'm not fishing it. So somebody else has a chance to win. Because if I was fishing it,
absolutely.
So
catch a giant with my dead bait.
I mean, and you know what? If the river's low,
here we go.
If the river is low, there's probably not enough water in there to cover the fish's back that I would catch. So got to give everybody a chance.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We do. We have our own stage. So we kind of have we have our own isolated area for SizeMatters fishing. And we do. So Jeff will actually be there with Apex Predator Outfitters. He'll have, a pretty good display of all of his stuff, shirts, hats. You can get your SizeMatters stuff there. You can get Tackle 22 stuff there, and Apex Predator Outfitters will have a good selection of stuff there. We will have the live fish aquarium, which is the biggest hit every year. I mean, from 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock when they shut us down, at all times. That tank is an 8-foot diameter tank, and there'll be 20 kids around it on their knees with their hands in there touching those fish and getting pictures.
So what kind of fish will be in there that the kids will be able to check out?
So it depends on what we catch, in the days leading up to it. However, typically I think on the average year we'll have a few catfish in there. We'll have some brim, some bass, some. Last year we had a gar.
Yeah,
we had a couple of gar.
Yeah.
In there, which is really cool. That's a big draw for the kids, because it's this prehistoric looking. I mean, obviously most of your viewers would know what a gar is, but it's something that's a wow factor to those kids.
Yeah.
And of course they love a largemouth bass. Everybody does. So that's typically what you can look for in there.
Cool.
The tank that we have was actually donated to us by IFAS, the University of Florida Ag Extension Office program.
Yeah.
They bought that tank for us last year to upgrade because we had a 100-gallon or a 200-gallon tank.
Yeah.
So they upgraded us to that big tank. We run fresh water in it.
Yeah.
And Gulf State Chemical out of Bluntstown donates us an oxygen bottle every year to be able to pump pure oxygen in there.
Yeah, very cool.
On those fish. So it's a
Man, I would imagine the kids
really
love
cool,
that.
man.
Yeah.
It's
like being at Bass Pro Shop, standing in front of that tank all day
yeah,
long.
it is.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference is like you can get down there and touch these fish.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Maybe I should come by. I know how to balance a bass on the palm of my hand, like with its tail like that. I got a video I'll have to show you of us doing that. I did it in Mexico. The guy taught me how to do it. One of my guides down there, which is really cool. But then when we went peacock bass fishing in Brazil, I did it with a peacock bass too. And the thing just sits there like a sea in your hand. It's amazing.
Well, it sounds like you need to make plans. To
Yeah,
come
no,
up
I
there,
do. I do
come
need
up
to
there
come,
and set
man.
up with us.
Yeah.
I mean, we got room for you.
Yeah, we'd have some fun, man, for sure.
Well, you know, and that being said, if you got the upper hand on helping us catch a few bass to display, that'd be cool too. And you know, and the cool thing about it is, at the end of the day, we take really good care of the fish. You know, and if we see a fish stressing, we remove them from the tank and we'll go ahead and release them. We try to keep that on, and that's the whole point of keeping the pure oxygen in there on them. And it is funny, and the locals will absolutely come by, and Jeff can attest to this. They'll put money on the table and say, I want that big shell. Here's $10 for that big shell cracker. We had a giant shell cracker in there last year.
Yeah.
And he was I could have sold him for $50 if I'd wanted to.
Somebody was licking their chops, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was dinner.
But every fish that's caught, unless you have a fish that's foul hooked or didn't do well, you know, and every now and then you do have a casualty.
Yeah.
That's, you know, unfortunate part of the tournament fishing. Yep. But we release all the fish right back into the Apalachicola River. And it's a big part of conservation. You know, we just, you know, I look at those kids in that fish tank, you know, and we don't want to rob that river. So we release all those fish, and it's really cool.
It's so important to take care of things like that. And we talked about that before, Jeff, that, you know, like, especially as I've gone on in years, I feel like conservation to me is so much more important than when I started, because I felt like I would keep fish every now and then. And now I just want to make it so they last, and so that my kids come along later and they have good fisheries that they can fish, man. Because I know how much I love it, and I don't want to take away from that for other people, man. And you know, we got to take care of the environment we live in, and when we do, you know, we get to keep doing the things that we love doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, at the end of the day, you know, our fish, they have to be weighed in alive. And like I said, every now and then you have a fish that just was going to struggle, you know, but for the most part, they all get released back into the river, and it's really cool. It's a really big draw at the end of the day, because most of the crowd that comes to watch that weigh in, all those kids go down there, and we let the kids help load the fish up. We put them in a side-by-side tank and then move them down there to the river, and all those kids go down there and help watch those, you know, push those fish out and weigh them back out there and let them swim away. So it's a really cool thing, but it's cool because, like, in the University of Florida, the IFAS, they do such a good job of helping us preach that conservation. You know,
sure. Well,
so it's a cool draw.
Tell them about what happens leading up to the tournament, the boats, the parade.
Okay, yeah. So the fishermen. So what we're going to do this year is we will actually. So the tournament is Saturday during the day. So on Friday night we'll have a captain's meeting. It's actually going to be at Idle Hour Southern Grill, which is a little bar and grill in Calhoun County. We're going to do, they actually have a musician coming up that night in a car show there. So we're kind of piggybacking off of that. But Friday night, February 21st, every boat that's going to register will come do the captain's meeting the night before from 6 to 8, come up, have dinner with us, hang out, meet the fishermen. After that, they're all going to leave. Some of them will go get a good night's sleep. A lot of them are going to go onto the river because they're going to go out there and want to catch fresh bait. They're allowed to go ahead and launch, and they can go out and catch a fresh bait. They're going to go catch gizzard shad, skipjack, live brim, you name it. They're going to go out there and catch their bait throughout the night. Then the tournament starts Saturday morning from 5 o'clock. They can have lines in the water at 5 o'clock Central Time, and they have 9 hours to fish up until 2 o'clock p.m. At 2 o'clock, they have to have lines out of the water, and they have to be lined up at the River Fest. They're going to, you know, we're going to have the baseball team that does the traffic detail, but the boats will get to line up at the front gate of the River Fest. And they're going to open the gate one time at 3 o'clock, and we do, you know, our boat parade.
Yeah, parade.
So the boat comes through. The boat parade comes through, and it's really cool. All the fishermen, catfishing is crazy when you look at the boats because everybody has this custom idea of how they want their boat to be. So you see anything from 13, 14 foot river boats, stick steering, tiller handles to, boats like mine that's a professional catfish boat that was built for catfishing with full enclosures and everything.
Yep.
But they'll come through, have their rods set up, have their lights and stuff on and blinking, and they'll be throwing stuff out. It's literally just like a parade.
Yep.
And we drive through and they kind of circle through the crowd one time, and then they come back and they'll start doing their weigh in. And it's a very professionally ran drive-through weigh in. We try our best to really showcase each fisherman.
So are you doing different species, or is it catfish only?
So it's it's catfish only.
Yeah.
It'll be a 3-fish bag limit. So they can weigh in, and it can be any combination, flathead, blue cat, or channel cat, or any combination of. Typically, your flatheads and your blue cats are going to carry more weight than your channel cats.
Yep.
But I mean, if you get your big channel cat, you weigh him in.
Yep.
But it'll be a 3-fish bag limit, and catfish only. So it's rod and reel only.
Oh, no noodling.
Yeah,
Okay.
no noodling, no bush hooking, no trot lining.
Yeah.
We do, our sheriff's department does a good job. They'll be on standby for a polygraph test.
Yeah.
Which we and we've never had any problems. We fish with a good group of guys that come from all over and take pride in what they're doing.
But most people are pretty honest about all that kind of stuff. Every now and then you get a knucklehead that does something, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And these catfish, they're just the cool thing about catfishing, and I grew up bass fishing. Well, brim fishing. Then when I got a little bit older, my first boat was a bass boat, and I traveled around and fished these bass tournaments, and that's what I watched on TV.
Yep.
It's what I wanted to do. It was so cool. When I got into catfishing, it really struck me because there's an added wow factor that you don't really have with any other type of fishing until you go saltwater fishing.
Yeah.
Because they're just so big.
Yeah.
They're just
there's some giants.
Yeah,
man.
they're just so big, and they swim in these little local bodies of water that we don't expect. When you go to the ocean, you know what's in the ocean.
Yeah.
Most people that go swim at that sandbar just don't realize what's swimming under them.
You don't know what's under you. Yeah, true.
And it's not just the 12-foot alligators; it's the 60-pound catfish.
What's a large catfish in Northwest Florida? What does that look like?
So a blue cat is typically going to carry the most weight, even though I prefer to catch flatheads. But a blue cat typically carries the most weight. Anything over 30 pounds is a good fish. In these tournaments, I mean, if with a 3-fish bag limit, if you catch 3 30-pounders, you had a good day.
90 pounds or something.
That's it usually takes around 100 pounds to win or be in that top few. Cool. We've had
mid-40s.
We've had. Well, the first one that we ever did, they called a 62 and a 50, and it was 140 something.
Yeah,
that's our
nice
record
fish.
so far. 140 something 3-fish bag.
Yeah.
Ronnie Dixon and his dad, Mr. Ronnie, they are our record holders today.
Awesome.
And they caught those in the first tournament and caught them right off the bat. Yeah. They called me within 4 or 5 hours of the tournament starting.
They're like, I got it one.
Like, we got them. Can we come weigh in? So we had to make special arrangements, because back then we didn't have the drive-through weigh in. Yeah. And we kept the scales open all night. And that was a nighttime tournament.
Very cool.
So this is a daytime tournament.
That's good fish for down here, man.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Our state record is 69 pounds, 8 ounces.
Is it?
Blue cat. Yeah. So, and the flathead's right there close.
And they get bigger north. I remember when we went, we did some hillbilly hand fishing up in Tennessee, up in Knoxville there on Fort Lawton Reservoir. And so we did 2 days of hillbilly hand fishing. And when we did it, we caught them. The biggest ones we were catching were maybe 35 pounds or so by hand.
Big fish.
That's a big fish.
Yeah.
It beat the crap out of you, right?
Absolutely.
And so we were supposed to go a third day, and we begged the dude not to take us hand fishing because we were just whipped, man. Like, it's so exhausting to do that. So we went pole fishing the last day, and my buddy caught one. It was like 85, 90 pounds, man. It had the Boca grip in it, it like pegged out the Boca grip all the way past like the 80 mark. And so it was giant. And I'll have to show you the video of it. It's nuts, man. But
when you go to, the Tennessee River, the Mississippi River, the James River, some of these other rivers that, Santee, Cooper, those river systems. I mean, it is, those 80 pounders are
giants,
a lot more common fish. And as a matter of fact, Micah Burkhart and Spencer Bauer, they were just down and spent a couple of days down here in Florida just recently Micah's the 2-time state record holder for the state of Tennessee.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he broke his own record with 120 something pound blue cat.
That's just a giant monster of fish, man.
It really is. It really is. There's a wow factor to that.
Oh, yeah.
And we fished a tournament on Decatur one time, and these guys come in, one of the first boats to come in, and they literally had twin 93-pound fish.
That's awesome.
That they weighed in. Obviously, they won the tournament, but it don't take much when you
catch 2 93s, you feel pretty good about your chances,
let's go
man.
catch a little kicker and go home, but it is. But they pulled them out of the box.
Yeah.
I'm a grown man that's been fishing my whole life, and we're just in awe.
Yeah.
Like, not only did you do it once, you did it twice in the same day.
Yeah.
So it is. There's a little bit of a wow factor to it, and I think that's kind of what sets catfishing a little bit aside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They may not be as pretty as a bass, and and maybe even as plentiful, but that size is pretty neat to see.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as catching quality and getting locked in on, when you have a tournament, do you find that when you get on them, you're going to catch them in the tournament? Like if you find a spot where the big ones are, I mean, do you feel like you got it? Because I've had bass tournaments I've done to where I pre-fish and I know where the fish are and I know that we're going to slay them, and then we go and we whack them the day of the tournament and I know it's coming, right? And then there's days where I struggle and I don't know how I'm going to do. Is catfishing kind of the same way? Yeah,
it is. I mean, they're definitely, there's a pattern to it, and you can find them, and it's so similar to bass fishing. What a lot of people don't realize is the way that you catch them is different. But a lot of times those big bass and those big catfish are in very similar places. Growing up, when I heard catfishing, I thought, go to the deep hole on the river, throw a big bait out, and you just sit there all night, and he's going to come. Man, it's so different than that. Like when I fish, now me and Jeff actually fish pretty different the way, because Jeff does stay in one spot a lot longer than I typically do. But when I'm flathead fishing, I may fish 30 or 40 spots in a night. I may only stay somewhere for 15 minutes.
Really?
I run and gun and, drop
if
down. And if they're not there, I may go to the next spot.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But that's, a lot of times instead of waiting on that one or two big fish that I feel like is in the spot, I may go try to win the tournament by catching numbers. I say, well, if I catch 40 flatheads tonight,
the probability
there's a great chance that I can find 3 30-pounders.
Yeah.
So I try to do it that way. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, but when you get into like blue cat fishing, the 2 biggest fish I've caught were in like 2 foot of water.
Really?
And,
wow.
And the moment that they hit, they're splashing.
They're blasting, yeah.
And it's just,
there's
only one, they can't go up or down, so it's left or right. And it's just, it's really cool. And even going on the lakes and stuff, we drag baits. I mean, I troll for blue cats with planer boards. And I'm, if my boat will float it, I'll drag it.
Do you find they're around like ambush points? Because you mentioned it's similar to bass. And to me, my brain, I was trying to find places where the bass are ambushing their prey, right? And is it the same approach?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And a blue cat is typically a schooling fish, a little bit different than a flathead. I mean, they do school this time of year. Those flatheads, they'll find those wintering holes, and it's unreal how they stack up on each other and just be hundreds of them in one area.
No kidding. Wow.
But during the spring of the year, once they come out, they kind of split up, and they do ambushing, but more on isolated structure. Those blue cats will do it, but they'll get out in big groups, like a schooling group of bass. Maybe not quite as active where they're blowing the top up, but they will. They'll get on pinch points and bottlenecks and river channels, ledges, and like that kind of stuff. But they very commonly go to shallow water.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So a lot of people just don't fish that.
And you would think deeper holes, because I mean you hear that a ton, but that's the thing. I mean, people have different ways that they fish, and if you only fish one way and don't diversify kind of how you're fishing, you'd never figure that stuff out. So
absolutely,
it's like if you only fish with dead bait, right?
Well, and the first time that I ever went drifting, for catfish. My buddy was out there, and he was like, oh, well, we just need to pull the anchor up, and we're just going to go with the wind. Yeah. And, we're going to cover some ground. And I was like, that's stupid. You got to anchor down and let them come to you. Yeah. And I, now if I'm blue cat fishing, unless I'm fishing on the river, I want to move. I want to be traveling. I want my bait to be moving. I mean, we go to the Mississippi River, and, bump down the river at a couple of mile an hour, So it's about covering ground, and they are. I mean, they will bite just like a bass would bite and ambush their prey. It really is. Blue cat fishing is it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
But when you learn how to do it, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. Do you, we got into a big discussion last time about, live bait versus dead bait. You got opinions on catching big catfish? I mean, do you see tendencies there that you pick up on?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if I'm blue cat fishing, I want either a skipjack or a gizzard shad. I want something out of the shad family or the herring family. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use it dead. I'm going to use it chunked up and cut up. That's what I like when I'm blue cat fishing. You can catch them on brim. I've caught one of my biggest blue cats on a live brim, but that's not how I would target them, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
That's not where I catch the most numbers. Flathead fishing is very different. And when you get down here where we're at in Florida, and I know this is very controversial to everybody that's in this whole flathead industry, but I will say that 95% of the fish that I catch in Florida want a live bluegill, bullhead, sucker, carp, some kind of a live fish.
Yeah.
They have a flathead is different than your blue cats and your channel cats. They have a really clean diet. They want, for the most part, they want the same kind of fish we would want.
Yeah.
So they want that fresh, clean, healthy, good smelling fish.
Yeah.
They also you can catch them on fresh cut bait. Cut bluegill in the spring of the year is probably my number one bait. I go through late February, early March. I really like fresh cut bluegill or any kind of panfish. But once you get past that, I want live bait. And, if I'm fishing a tournament, I got to be out there all night. It's going to take 100 live bait to get us through the night. And if one dies, we will absolutely cut him up, and you have success with it.
Yeah.
But live bait works really good here in Florida and in this part of the country.
Yeah.
But I will also say to everybody that would dispute that, when I go to the Mississippi River or the Tennessee River, or I get out of this area, that cut shad and cut blue, skipjack works great.
Yeah.
And I've went to the Tennessee River with live bluegill and not had good luck.
Yeah.
They want that shad and skipjack. That's what's, in abundance up there.
Yeah, and it's funny to me how the body of water changes the behaviors of those fish that way. But, the same species is behaving differently in those. And that's why you see so many different arguments about, well, this is what works here and this is what works here. And people are adamant about it because it very well may be different where they're at. But you got to learn those tendencies on the body of water. And I agree. Same thing. I bass fish a bunch, man. What works in one place may or may not work in the next place because the environment's different, the conditions that those fish live in, the forage that they go after, it's all different. And you got to put together that mental puzzle every single time when you go out on the water, and you got to learn it, man. That's why when you do tournaments and like the local guys do well in those tournaments that are like Bassmasters and stuff like that, because they have local knowledge of the water and it matters, man.
Absolutely.
So people should pay attention to stuff like that and listen to the local guys and pick up on those tips and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, but the same thing, and I've tournament fished for a long time now and spent a lot of time on the Mississippi River, Tennessee River. Those are two of the closest big tournament areas for me to get to. And when you go there, nobody's fishing with live bluegill or bullheads. Like it's, they just don't even do it. But now you can go to the east and go to the Altamaha River, and they fish it the same way they fish the Apalachicola River. Yeah. Live bluegill. That's what everybody wants. So it is. It's really weird, how that works. But I'm a firm believer, as long as you get out there and you're trying and you're putting bait in the water, you got a good chance to catch them.
Man, we've been able to do different trips around the world and fish different styles of things. Man, we've done tuna and catfish and bass and salmon and all kinds of stuff. And what has always been cool to me is being able to learn from those different types of fish and those different techniques that we've learned in different places and apply some of those skills in things that you wouldn't think to do it, right? So things when I'm bass fishing or, if I'm catching, something that's deep sea, a technique or a rigging thing, that works in that capacity, man. There's so many different ways to catch a fish, man. Creativity in that plays a role into it, and you always got to have an open mind, in my opinion, to how you catch fish.
So you just said the key word right there with the open mind.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a quick story on the Mississippi River. So fish a tournament every year that George Young hosts, and Bill Dance is always there because it's in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's the Mississippi River Monsters. I fished it for many, many years. I did not fish it this past year. It's one of the first years that I didn't get to attend. But on the Mississippi River, you do what they call bumping. Mm-hmm. You know, and a lot of people don't know what bumping is. And in the catfish world, I mean, you either love it or you hate it. So first year that we went up there was probably 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I went up there with this mindset that I was going to drive up and down the river, find a big treetop, and I was going to drop a live brim down. That was what I knew how to do. So that was my goal. Well, I went up there and I realized there ain't no treetops sitting out on the Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. That river's absolutely huge, and it's about like fishing the ocean.
Yeah.
Except it's flowing 5 to 15 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at, if you're, in a certain bend. So like we went up there and I had these big 8-ounce no rolls the first year. And I was like, that'll sink anything. And people around here, they're like, oh, that's a really big weight. Well, we went up there and threw them out, and in 30 foot of water, they're floating on the top of the water. Wouldn't even remotely go down. Yeah. And those guys were like, oh, if you're anchor fishing, you're going to need a 24 to a 32 ounce weight. Yeah. And I was like, that's crazy. My rod won't even hold that. I can't throw that, nuts. You know? Yeah. Well, so then they're like, well, you're going to have to bump out here. So then I started, and bumping is basically where you set your trolling motor up the river. And, you just try to cut the speed of the current in half. So if it's going 2 mile an hour, you try to cut it to 1 mile an hour. Mm-hmm. And you're facing up the river, but you're going backwards down the river. Yeah. And you got one rod in your hand, and you're just kind of bumping that bait up and down over those rocks. And you can do it from 20 foot to 120 foot. So I tried that for 3 years. 3 years I went down there, and I tried bumping. In 3 years, I got my tail absolutely handed to me in this tournament. We never even really fish.
No kidding.
Never even caught fish during the tournaments, and could barely catch them,
So did you figure out how to do it? Is there a certain technique to it?
I was up there for my 4th year, and I was talking to the Massengale brothers, who's, if you know catfishing, you know the Massengale brothers. And I got to talking to them one day, and I was telling them what I was doing, and they were kind of confused. They're like, man, it sounds like you're doing everything right. Just got to keep, maybe you're in the wrong place, this and that. And I even showed them I pulled out my phone and I showed them. I was like, we went right here. And they're like, ugh, you should have caught fish there. Mm. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And then one of them told me, they said, man, here's what you need to do. He said, right now, you've got your boat going up the river too fast. So it's cutting your speed and you're moving down the river too slow. They said, back off that trolling motor a little bit, which is going to let you go with the current even faster. So by slowing your trolling motor down, you actually start going faster down the river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you.
And as you do that, they said, it's going to be a more natural. Well, the next day, we went out there, and it was a tournament day.
Whacking them. Yeah.
And we caught fish. I think we caught 8 or 10 fish that first day.
No kidding.
Just by speeding up. Yeah. And ever since then, I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah. And I go up there and you can catch 20, 30, 40 fish a day. Yeah. And it's so action-packed. But I was going too slow. Yeah. So it was like once I got that out of my head.
Little difference, man.
Well, it was like when I got that out of my head that like I had to move really slow and methodically down there. And it was kind of like you just kind of get out there and you cut loose and you just start going. Yeah. We started catching fish. Yeah. And now, obviously, then I got into a habit a few years later where I wanted to go too fast. Yeah. So then I had to slow it back down. Yeah. But now I found that happy medium and I've learned how to read it. But that was it. I mean, that was all the difference in the world, and I would have never thought that.
That's cool. I wouldn't think to catfish that way, but it makes sense. So I do a lot of flipping and pitching on the Apalachicola River, and so I'd fish the same way. I don't call it bumping, but I'm backing down with the current, and it controls the boat. I keep the boat at the distance I want away from the bank, and I can flip and pitch into shallow areas there and hit my spots real good and control it. And so that's a great thing to think about with catfishing that I hadn't thought about fishing that way. So that's cool you mentioned that. So
yeah, it's just completely different, and like I said, years of going up there, and I seen the guys doing it, and I was like, that's stupid. Y'all are dumb. And then we'd get to the weigh-in, and 9 out of 10 of them that was taking home money, that's what they were doing. I'm like, there's got to be some truth to it.
When that water's ripping like that, I mean, that might be about the only way you can catch them sometimes.
Well, it really
right?
is. It really is. When you get out in that current, and then you can suspend in some scour holes, and some dead water, and you can get, in certain areas and anchor out. But I mean, yeah, for the most part, you got to go with the flow, and that's what that river gives you. So that's what you do.
We've been down to Venice a couple different times, man, and really that water does go so fast that to fish the main channels and stuff like that. I mean, I can't even imagine getting in on some of that. But we fished a little bit for like redfish and trout down in Venice, and that's a wild place. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's nuts down that way. But it's some darn good fishing over there.
Yeah, well, it absolutely is, and I mean that's just that's kind of something That's an area that I think people are just now starting to realize holds a lot of catfish.
Yeah.
On that southern end of the Mississippi River and this and that. So, but catfishing it really is. It's a growing sport. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
what's you got a place that you've been to you think is the best place you've ever been for catfish? I mean, is it one place? Is it just is it a place that you love going to?
So if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I'd have told you the Tennessee River. And I still do. I really like Lake Wheeler, Lake Wilson, Guntersville. Those are really cool places to fish.
Oh, yeah.
I've had some really good times on Santee Cooper. That's a cool system. I have never fished the James River, but that's probably James River, Kerr Lake is probably this is one of the biggest kept secrets. I mean, it's not. It's where the record come from, but overall, like if I had to go spend a week somewhere, it would be the Mississippi River, and it would be from West Helena, somewhere around there down to Vicksburg.
Yeah.
It would be somewhere, on that stretch of the river. I just think there's an abundance of big fish there.
Yeah.
And they're I'm not going to say they're easy to catch, but you can have really, really good days out there.
You got a chance to catch a giant.
Yeah. And if you have a little bit of knowledge of how to bump, you can find them.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's a really, really cool stretch of the river. And the coolest part about that area is like that whole stretch of the Mississippi River, it really is like this old school place with a lot of Civil War history up and down those banks and all these old, Civil War towns. It just has so much cool history in them, and the river banks are littered with casinos and whatnot, which is obviously really, a cool draw. But it's just the sightseeing that you see out there. It's just kind of, it takes you back in time. And it was just some of that stuff has been preserved really cool. And those are really neat little cities to go visit.
That is awesome, man. When you get to travel around and see different places fishing, I love learning about the towns and seeing how people live and learn about the history of it, man. That was something when we started doing trips, I never really appreciated it in the beginning, but now I do. To me, it's more about that than some of the fishing experiences too, man. The people we meet and the places that we get to see and the experiences we get into, that's so much more meaningful than I ever thought it would be when I started doing travel trips and all that. So
have you ever been to Santee Cooper, like around Black's Fish Camp or any of that?
Nope.
Oh man, like that's a really cool place because when you get there, you're fishing. Yeah. Like that is a fishing town. It's not even much of a town. I mean, you got to go a ways to get back into town. But like around that Black's Fish Camp and all on that canal or river, whatever they consider it, that connects those two big lakes on Santee. When you get out there, your mindset changes and you're like, we're here to fish. Yeah. Like we ain't doing nothing else. Yeah. Like we're here to fish. That's awesome. A really cool place to go visit.
Yeah, I'll check that out, man. Yeah, man. That definitely needs to be on the list for sure.
Yeah. So, it's a cool place.
Yeah. No, it's man, I tell you, when you get out away from technology, and it's funny we're here doing a podcast talking about it, but when you get away from technology and you can unplug, man, that's living, man. Like getting out on the water and disconnecting from the world and fishing for a couple hours. That's to me what it feels like to be alive, man. So, whether you're catfishing or bass fishing or salmon fishing or whatever, dude, just get out there, and that's to me what this is all about. So,
yeah. And I would say like if, to your viewers, if you ever have a chance to actually travel somewhere and fish that is away from your home or hunt, whatever it is that you do, I hunt a lot, but I have a hunting lease that borders my property. So I can go sit in my deer stand in the evening. I can get off really late at 4:00 and run down there and still hunt. So there's a convenience to it. But on the same hand, on a Saturday morning, I can get up and go hunt. And in an hour, first time I get bit by a mosquito when the sun comes up good, I can go, well, it's real easy to run home, and I could cut that grass.
Yeah,
or
I got chores to do.
I
yeah.
got this honey-do list,
Yeah.
and it's like you can talk yourself out. Same thing on the river, I mean, from like me and Jeff, we'll meet in Weewall and fish. It's 20 minutes from his house, 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
We'll go there and meet and fish. And if we're not catching fish, maybe 8, 9, 10 o'clock, we'd be like, well, I mean, we could go upload that video or something, and you can talk yourself out of it. When you go to one of those remote places, you can leave all that behind and actually enjoy it.
It forces you to just let it go, man. And I've done these things enough times that I think it takes 24 hours, man. When you disconnect from the world and you get unplugged from the internet and cell phones and all that kind of stuff, I literally think it takes the body 24 hours to disconnect and get to a point where you actually relax, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You can feel it in your bones, man. And when you get out there and you're just at peace, then that's, to me, the thing that really I love about fishing is it's my only opportunity to disconnect and just be at peace with the world, man.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, that's my big escape now.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited that like my kids are getting old enough now that they can, in the near future start taking some of those trips with me. Yeah. And get out there and really kind of get to live that, to where you can escape and you don't have to worry about that homework or that test next week. Or, you can get out there and just enjoy yourself.
That's pure time with them, man, where it's really just about the two of you, or the three of you, like it's about that relationship, man. When we did a trip to Alaska a couple of years ago, man, I ran into so many people that were fathers and sons or best friends, and they were out there in the middle of nowhere just sharing this special time together, man. And it was so awesome to see that and to run into people that were doing that. And that's what I would hope for with my kids someday too, is to be able to share that kind of experience with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. Well, I would like to recap by giving some information about the tournament. Can you tell our viewers one more time about February 22nd? If they're interested to find out information, how can they get more info? All
right, so you can go to one of the best places to go get your information from is the Florida River Fest. The Florida River Fest has a Facebook page. That's going to be the best place. We kick out a lot of information from there. They do a really good job of putting every single aspect of the River Fest out. But you can also go to SizeMatters Fishing, and SizeMatters is it's one word, SizeMatters Fishing. You can go find us on Facebook. We have the current boat list and registration stuff up. I think so far we have 12 boats registered. If you're interested in coming to fish the event, it's a $150 entry fee per boat. That's for you and however many people you can legally have on it. That gets you in. It's 3 fish limit, all catfish, rod and reel. The rules are posted on our Facebook page and whatnot. The captain's meeting will be Friday night, February 21st at Idle Hour and Bluntstown. We'll have all that information posted on the site as well. From 6 to 8, you come sign up then and there, and we'll give everybody detailed information about how the weigh-in will go so that everybody's comfortable when they come in. We actually have a good friend of mine, DJ Shamrock, is actually going to be there at the weigh-in, and all of the music everywhere else stops during our weigh-in. They cut everything off for 1 hour at 3 o'clock for us to do our weigh-in. He's going to be there spinning music during the weigh-in. Cool. So it's really cool. It'll keep it upbeat. You can do all your shopping all there. But if you're interested in fishing this tournament, and even if you have the boat but you've never really been catfishing or something, send me a message on the SizeMatters fishing page. I'd be glad to walk people through it. I mean, every year we tend to end up helping people with bait, tackle, whatever it is. We'll give you any tips that we can. I don't fish my own tournament. If I handle the money, I don't want to fish it. So myself, Jeff, Jim Fields, there'll be a lot of us there that you can get in contact with on the SizeMatters fishing page to help you, give you some tips and pointers if you're interested in trying.
Awesome. Yeah, the event sounds like a great event, kid-friendly event, and for people that are interested in catfish and music, man, you guys got a ton of stuff going on. So definitely, y'all check out the content that you got on your page. Jeff, you as well, man. You got some hilarious stuff that you do online. So y'all follow these guys online and appreciate their content because they got some really great stuff. So Guys, I appreciate y'all being here today. We'll go ahead and get wrapped up for today. I would like to thank our sponsor again, BassTackleSupply.com. Go there for some freshwater fishing tackle. And again, I appreciate y'all joining us today. Guys, enjoyed the conversation, man. Y'all check in with us soon.